Hopefully my neighbour's party is not too loud. Did they just start playing music? No. Alright, so we're carrying on with the donut tutorial, which has become cup tutorial. And so let's get straight into it. Let's play the video.
Welcome back. In this video, we're going to turn this water into coffee. So first of all, let's if we were to change this liquid here, we'd also be changing the same material for the plate and the glass because they're all sharing the exact same material here. So with the liquid selected, give it a new material by hitting that little number that was next to it. Oh, what happened there? Move that over.
Alright, so material. Little number. Click to make a single user copy. Alright. Can I rename it? I'm going to rename it. I bet he renames it next.
There we go. And then I'm going to call this coffee. So these two are sharing the same glass, and then this one is just called coffee.
I'm getting good at this.
You would think that the way to change the color of a liquid would be to just like take the base color and just give it something else, right?
I would think that.
It works. Or does it? It does work, but you'll notice that, it doesn't look that realistic, right? Something's not quite right about it. It almost looks like, it's made of like really, really diluted light cordial. I don't know if that's an Australian thing, cordial. Like, I don't know, the juice that's like really concentrated, and then you add water to it, you give it to kids, it's just full of sugar. It looks like that, right? There's no, it looks too light. And the reason that it looks too light is that what this is doing is it's not behaving like real liquid does. If you've ever stood in a lake or gone swimming in a lake, you'll probably notice that like you can see your hands in the water, but then as they go through the water, they basically disappear into darkness. And that is because there is particles in the water, and the more depth your hand goes through the water, so many particles that it basically all the light is removed, and you can no longer see your hands. Well,
this is going to just destroy my computer as far as like rendering times go. But still, here we go, path tracing sample 8 of 8, and it's a grainy mess.
The exact same thing that's happening with liquid.
We're gonna make it's gonna get worse. I bet
it's basically changing the color of the surface of the material, which isn't even possible for glass. You can't just change the color. Like it'd be almost like if the glass was painted with like a translucent paint. That's what this is doing right now. What you want is that depth. Okay, so the way you do it is not to change this color at all. Okay, we're gonna leave that at pure white.
Okay.
What we need to do is down here, underneath volume, we're going to add some volume to it. Okay, so volume is that. It's that depth. It's adding little tiny invisible particles to the inside of your object so that it'll go through. Things will disappear as it goes through. Anyway, so
volume.
Click that little thing that says none, and you get all the different shading types here. There's only 2 that'll actually work in the volume slot, so I don't know why it's showing all this. The only 2 is volume, different shading. Things will disappear as it goes through. Anyway, so underneath volume, click that little thing that says none, and you get all the different shading types here. There's only 2 that'll actually work in the volume slot, so I don't know why it's showing all this. The only 2 is volume, unless I'm mistaken. Oh, I guess also principal volume. Volume absorption and volume scatter. Scatter is used for things like clouds, where like light just sort of like passes through it and like bounces through it, and it kind of just retains its brightness. Absorption is where things like get darker as light goes through it. So that is the one that we want. By the way, this material section here, you remember like when we were doing the donut, if you went to the shading tab, and we zoomed out here, you still have the nodes here, right? So this is actually what you've just created, like through doing this in the panel, right? Where did all that stuff go? By doing it through the panel, it just added in these nodes here. So you've got your principal shader, which is like the appearance of the liquid, and then this one here is being plugged into a new part of the material separate to everything else called volume, okay? But, we don't actually need all this complexity in the nodes. We're just fine with what we've got here. Okay, now when you add this volume absorption, nothing's really changed because the density of 1 is really, really low. If you were to increase this, you would see, you start to get the kind of the look of like when your hand is in a lake, right? The higher you set this to, you'll see that eventually we can't really see the bottom of the glass. In fact, let me just go from camera view, let me move the camera up just slightly. I'm just going to look down. You don't have to copy this, by the way. I'm just doing this so that I can Control B. If you hold down Control B and drag over it when you're in camera mode, that will add a, basically like a window, like a small little window, so that you can render a lot faster than if it was like...
Control B. Oh, man, this keyboard shortcut is going to make my day. Oh, I can probably crank up the number of samples. Let's have a very generous 16. Ah, blazingly fast. I might even crank that up to like 64. Let's carry on.
Like full screen. Anyway, I'm just doing that so that I can show you this depth of this liquid here, okay? So this is what it looked like with nothing there. So you're seeing like straight through right to the bottom of the glass, and then the higher you set that to, the darker it becomes, like so. Okay, now, looking at this, we want this to obviously look like coffee, okay? So looking at a real photo of coffee, I've actually got a reference photo here that I'm going to load up just to show you. If I can find it. Where did I save it? There it is. Okay. Real coffee looks like this. So it's got a kind of a orangey, yellowy tint to it. So what color would you actually set this to? You might go like, okay, orangey, dark, like that. Well, actually, you don't need to put any darkness into this value here because the volume, this density, that's what's going to give it the darkness. So you can actually make this like fully bright, like 100% value, whatever, right? And then your saturation, you also want that to be bright as well. I guess you probably do need to have some darkness to it, or else it's maybe not going to work at all. So don't go 100% value. You got to have a little bit of darkness to it. Otherwise, maybe that's a bug, but like the density just won't work without it. So anyway, then yeah, you don't actually want to give it the orange color either. You want to give it just the tip of, you can see the very tip of that. It's like a lightish yellow color. Okay, so when you do this, you give it a lightish yellow color. The density is what's going to actually make it multiply and become this hue from, you know, light yellow to orange and then to darkness. Because that's basically the way the light's working is it's going to yellow, and then the yellow light is then reflecting into other particles, which is also yellow, and then it's making it more yellow until it becomes orange and then red and then finally to pure darkness.
So I have a feeling that this is not particularly physically accurate. Or is it? Because obviously this is, you know, RGB, which treats everything as a separate channel, whereas I suspect this effect would have a lot more to do with, let's see if I can find one, like a, this is close enough. Like, you know, you got this. I'm not sure what this curve is, but you can imagine like a, you know, this is the amount of light that it lets through, for example, and it's like, okay, it lets through less light there and less light there. So as you get thicker, you're, you know, absorbing more of this stuff, or the other side, and vice versa. Spectrogram is obviously not what I really wanted. Absorption, there's a T in it. One of these things, like, yeah, you can sort of see, you know, the lines of absorption. I don't know what that one's about, or maybe this one. Here we go. Emission line spectrum, absorption line spectrum, that sort of thing. So anyway, we'll carry on. So anyway, the point is that I'm not sure this should even work properly in RGB, because obviously the way it's getting that red in RGB would be, you know, it's absorbing green and red in equal amounts until it saturates one, and then it absorbs just more of the red, something like that. Anyway, it's interesting to think about.
Yellow, and then just increasing the density until it starts to look like coffee. And actually, it can probably be helpful if you make your plane white, because that can actually help you to see the color. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that is the one. That's the value that I'm going to go with. So all that was to essentially say, like, keep this the same, the principal thing, keep that the same, and just add one volume absorption section, make it yellow, and then set the density to around 7.
I've written T here.
Like,
you can tell what I drink.
Just in color, depending on what coffee you use, depending on what strength you use. If you're my wife, you use like a really, really super weak, like, I don't know, a density of 200, might as well be tea. Or, you know, you could be the sort of person that has an espresso. One of those Italians, crazy Italians, sitting outside the cafes all day, just sipping on these. What's the point of enjoying coffee if it's that small? That's my point, right? Just make it a little bigger and just enjoy it a little bit, but not too big. Right? Don't wash it out, but just don't condense it. I don't know.
Give me some values, because I can't.
What I want.
I can't sit here rendering this
the same way as me. But anyways, that's it. That was pretty simple tutorial. It's
copy his coffee
to make it look like coffee. But yeah, the next video we're going to be UV unwrapping this cup so that we can add condensation droplets, a texture to that. So learning a lot in the next video. So click here, and I will see you there.
All right, how do I?
This tutorial.
Stop. How do I get rid of the? How do I clear the render border is the first thing that comes up. Control-Alt-B, thank you. Let's have camera view. Is that camera? Yeah, that's camera. And that's looking coffee-esque. Anyway, I'll let that keep rendering, and we'll maybe
Some
continue
textures
this.
from our sister company, Polygon. Sign up for a free account by clicking the link in the description.
So I'm
It's the
gonna
final
go yellow.
part of level 3. Level 3.
No,
I just wanted
sing.
to start with the cringiest intro ever, and that's what I came up with. So we're going to be adding condensation, a texture, to our cup here, and to do that we have to do UV unwrapping, and that's really the whole reason why we even got this step in here. Condensation isn't that necessary for something like this, but it's an excuse to learn about UV unwrapping, okay? So UV unwrapping, you'll remember we talked about it briefly when we had the donut, and we were going to paint it, and I explained it's like a chocolate that's
We're up to 8 samples, 9 samples. It's looking fabulous.
been wrapped up, but then I showed you that we were kind of lucky because the donut came pre-UV unwrapped, so we didn't really have to do anything. The cup, no such luck. So we've modeled it ourselves, which means we have to do the UV unwrapping. Okay, so to explain this, it is probably best if we just quickly, I'll do this quickly, explain it on something a little simpler than a cup, okay? The way I like to think of UV unwrapping, and it's helped me whenever I'm going about creating something, is imagining that this object is made out of paper, and I want to flatten that paper, and I want to put it flat onto a surface. And in order to do that, I've got a pair of scissors with me, and I have to choose where am I gonna cut in order to lay it flat, okay? And this is very helpful for me because I remember as a kid, I made like a paper dice. We should just call them dice. Die sounds ridiculous, even if it's a single one. Dice. I made a single dice, and
Go faster.
and I had to do this, and it's just like burned in my mind, right? So imagine this is made of paper. I want to lay it flat. Where do I put those cuts? Okay, so there's a UV editing tab, which is what we're going to be using to UV unwrap something. And by default, it's come already UV unwrapped because it's a cube. So let me just cheat, reset it, because we're going to do it ourselves. Okay. So in order to put these cuts in, right, I'm going to use edge select mode. Don't follow along with this, right? This is just for like demonstration purposes. You can sit back and relax and enjoy a donut if you happen to have one laying around. Anyway. So where would I put cut? Let's put 3 cuts in the top here. Okay, so I'm gonna hit Control E, and this is how you would add in a cut, by the way. Control E for
What if I want to follow along? Oh, well.
E, elephant. We'll go with elephant. Mark seam. That's the one you select. Now those there are outlined as red, and that means those are going to be cut. Then I would hit U, select everything, hit U, and then unwrap. Okay, now this is the result that I've got. Now you can see something's going on, but it's probably not right, and there's these weird bits that are all sort of switched together. This is part of our UV unwrapping, which is come out perfectly. That's a square, right? So that part has been done correct. The rest of it not so because it's all switched in together. It doesn't know what to do. So let's try putting in another cut and another cut. I'll put 2 cuts in here. I'll hit Control E, mark seam, U, unwrap. Haha, looking a little closer, right? Like it's almost flattened out. It's almost flattened out on the table, but there's still not enough cuts. You can see that this part here and this part here need to have a seam as well, right? So that's that line there and this line here. So now that I've done that, Control E, mark seam, unwrap, and there we go. Okay, so that's how you do it. You put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it 8? 7? It's 7 cuts. 7 cuts in order to outline this six-sided cube here, right? So that's a very simple object, and I hope that didn't confuse you at all, but I wanted to demonstrate on something a little simpler. So now we have our cup. Where on earth do we put these cuts? So imagine it's made of paper. If you want to lay it out flat, how on earth are you going to possibly do this? So you got to put some cuts in there, right? So the first thing is like, lengthways, like just cut it like in half and like rip it apart, right? So let's put a cut right here, okay? Doesn't really matter. I mean, you could put it like anywhere, but where you put a cut, we'll get to this later with texturing, but you sometimes see a little visible seam. So it helps if you can put it next to something else that's going to hide it. So I'm putting it next to this handle. But anyway, so by the way, I'm holding down Alt and I'm left clicking on that, and I'm in edge select mode. Which way if you want to hop switching between vertice, edge, or face. But where you like, so imagine it's made of paper.
Time to start following this. So it's looking lovely. We're not even up to 64 samples. Anyway, we'll do it properly later. I'm going to turn this back down to. I'll give it 16. Now that we've fixed the issue, like by just dropping the number of cores down to 2. But I'm going to switch it over to Eevee and see what it looks like. Eevee does not handle that even slightly well. It has issues. What's it look like in locked off mode? Huh. Nifty. Alright, well, let's get my overlay back on. And I suppose we'll just keep watching.
If you want to lay it out flat, how on earth are you going to possibly six-sided cube here, right? So that's a very simple object, and I hope that didn't confuse you at all, but I wanted to demonstrate on something a little simpler. So now we have our cup. Where on earth do we put these cuts? So imagine it's made of paper. If you want to lay it out flat, how on earth are you going to possibly do this? We got to put some cuts in there, right? So the first thing is like, lengthways, like just cut it like in half and like rip it apart, right? So let's put a cut right here, okay? Doesn't really matter. I mean, you could put it like anywhere, but where you put a cut, we'll get to this later with texturing, but you sometimes see a little visible seam. So it helps if you can put it next to something else that's going to hide it. So I'm putting it next to this handle. But anyway, so by the way, I'm holding down Alt and I'm left clicking on that, and I'm in edge select mode. Which by the way, if you want a hotkey for like switching between vertice, edge, or face, 1, 2, and 3 on your keyboard. You can get my shortcut PDF. Somebody should make a compilation video every time I've referred people to my shortcut PDF. I want a supercut version of that. But anyways, okay, so I've selected that. Control E, mark seam. Okay. By the way, selecting everything, you can see part of it is UV unwrapped, but that's because it was originally a cylinder. But this is almost certainly completely wrong now that we've done all this modeling. So now I'm going to hit U, then select unwrap. Aha, so we have something. It's trying to stretch it out, doing a weird sort of job.
So I should say that I've actually gotten started on the thing that I actually needed to model, which is about a similar complexity to the cup. Maybe a little trickier because, well, about similar complexity, but I've had to figure out some stuff that obviously I didn't have someone doing it in a tutorial, so I've had to figure it out myself. But it's going pretty well.
Oh, but yeah, it's coming along okay. Now this.
All right, so you unwrap. No, I missed the.
That. But anyways, okay, so I've selected that PDF. So I'm just make a compilation video every time I've referred people to my shortcut PDF. I want a supercut version of that. But anyways, okay, so I've selected that. Control E, mark scene. Okay. By the way, selecting everything, you can see part of it is UV unwrapped, but that's because it was originally a cylinder. But this is almost certainly completely wrong now that we've done all this modeling. So now I'm going to hit U, then select unwrap.
Okay, so that's the original. Hit that and then what? Control E. Mark seam. So this is one thing that I learned, and that is turn that sucker off while we're doing this. And in fact, we're going to turn off that so I can actually see what's happening. Okay, interesting. We'll turn off the saucer and the plane as well. Alright, I'm just going to make this a bit easier.
Aha, so we have something. It's trying to stretch it.
So what was that? U and unwrap. And then we have to select all. Alright.
It's doing a weird sort of job, but yeah, it's coming along okay. Now, this part down here is our handle, right? This part here. And that looks really, really wrong. Now, there's nothing that says the UV, these are called UV islands.
Which part down where?
Weird sort of job, but yeah. So now I'm going to hit U and select unwrap. Aha, so we have something. It's trying to stretch it out. It's doing a weird sort of job, but yeah, it's coming along okay. Now, this part down here is our handle, right? This part here. And that looks really, really wrong. Now, there's nothing that says the UV, these are called UV islands. There's nothing that says it has to be one single piece. The cube we did in one piece, but it could be as many pieces as you want. There's different ideas of like if you're trying to save for texture space and blah, blah, blah. You can get really deep into the weeds on that. But the point is we can just cut it off, like make this its own separate object, which is often a better idea when you've got like different types of geometry that don't really blend in together or fit. You just cut them off and make them separate objects. So I'm cutting that off by hitting Control E, mark seam, and do that. Okay, so this is our handle here.
Okay, we can do that. Just cut it off in the same place. And I know how to do this because, I'm a savvy. I will do that in one shot. Okay, and then Control E, mark seam. And then okay, and then what, like E for unwrap. Okay, that's mine. It's ugly looking sucker.
Now, our handle doesn't need to be UV unwrapped because, I mean, there's not going to be any condensation in it. But if we were, we could put a seam right here. So I could just put a seam right down the middle there, U unwrap, and now you can see this is our handle, right? So you can see how it's starting to like peel it.
Do you just put one around the edge there? There to there. Okay, so mark seam and then unwrap. Well, no, all unwrap. Okay, so that looks a lot more reasonable.
And flatten it out so it looks recognizable, right? By the way, when we hit U, you can see there's something down there that says object has non-uniform scale, which means it will operate on a non-scale version of it. Basically means this is becoming distorted because if we hit N for Nelly to open up the properties, you can see that we've got underneath scale, these two values here aren't as 1, okay? So in order to make them 1, we need to apply our scale. So if we hit Control A.
Okay.
In object mode only, Control A, scale, you can see these have been reset to 1. And now when we do this, you should see this will change a little bit. There you go. Not much. Sometimes it's drastic, but if you ever see that warning, you basically need to apply the scale and UV unwrap it so that it works properly. It's an annoying bug, honestly. Not a bug. Object mode only, Control. These two values here aren't as 1, okay? So in order to make them 1, we need to apply our scale. So if we hit Control A in object mode only, Control A, scale, you can see these have been reset to 1.
Okay, so that would have been handy to know when I was doing other work. Apply scale. All right.
And now when we do this, you should see this will change a little bit. There you go. Not much. Sometimes it's drastic, but if you ever see that warning, you basically need to apply the scale and UV unwrap it so that it works properly. It's an annoying bug, honestly.
I didn't actually see the warning, but it's good to know.
It's not a bug. feature designed to work like that. I have no idea, but it is annoying. 'Cause it's like, yeah, the only, like, of course it has to be, you know, the scale has to be applied. I don't even know why doing the operation if the scale isn't applied. I don't know. Too much information. Anyway, all right. So we've got
Interesting.
part of it working. You can see down here, like this is all connected together because right in the center of our cup. And let me just Alt Z so we can focus on it. And the clipping is way too close. So let's just there we go. So I need to, for each of these circles down here, I need to also make them seams, right? Those two circles. So Control E, mark seam, U, unwrap. Aha! So you can see that it's starting to open it up, like it's broken that apart because these circles are now able to be free and, you know, be off by themselves. Okay, now this weirdness is happening because, like,
Did you do it on the other side as well? You must have.
if this was a cylinder, this would be a lot easier because the lines would be.
Looks like it. So anyway, I will do it just for. Sure, you know what? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So it takes that one out, and then we still have that issue. So yeah, we do need to do both. E mark seam, all unwrap. All right. So we're getting better.
Straight and it would know what to do. But this is not a cylinder. This is like a tapered in thing. And there's not really an easy way to UV unwrap it that isn't going to end up with a shape like this. The old way that I used to fix this like older versions of Blender was to try to like flatten it out. Because you can grab vertices over here, you can rotate them, you can scale them and try and, you know, make them flat. And I would try and make these grid shapes because like a grid, flat, square lines like that often looks a lot better. And it's easier like to work with like a texture when we come to our condensation if these lines are like, if these are squares or at least uniform shapes than what they are currently. But yeah, there's not really an easy way to do it. Until I discovered there is an add-on which does not come with Blender by default, but I'm putting a link to this in the description. It's called UV Squares. So if you enable this out and you enable it, then when you go to N for your properties down here, Infinelli, you've got something called UV Squares. And then if you just select the mesh by hitting L, so you click any vertice or just anywhere in it, basically L, then if you hit to grid by shape, that will happen. Dun, dun, dun. So it's just magically converted all that craziness into its actually like uniform. Like, yeah, it's tried to make a grid shape out of it based on what it has.
Fine. We'll download your plugin. Bum, 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 bum. So off we are on the second monitor. Just downloading this plugin. And now we're going to follow along over here so you can see what we're doing. Let's see if we can do that in one shot. Edit, preferences, add-ons, install from, and here's where we need to get the path where we install it in Blender plugins, UV Square master, UV Squares. Alright, so I seem to have installed it. I mean, I'm pretty impressed by being able to install a plugin on the fly. Like, you know, some software just nonsense. That seemed to work pretty well. So let's carry on with this. We'll make him, put him back in his, put baby in a corner.
So it's just magically converted all that craziness into UV Squares. And then so if you enable this out and you enable it, then when you go to N for your properties down here, Infinelli, you've got something called UV Squares. And then if you just select the mesh by hitting L, so you click any vertice or just anywhere in it, basically L.
Okay, so L I believe is linked vertices. These holes, I wonder what they are. Oh, they must be where the handle goes in, of course. So there's the handle, and the handle comes in there. We've got the circles there. So L, and then N, UV Squares, and what do we press?
L. Then if you hit to grid by shape.
To grid by shape. Hey, it's magic.
That will happen. Dun, dun, dun. So it's just magically converted all that craziness into its actually like uniform. Like, yeah, it's tried to make a grid shape out of it based on what it had, and it's done a pretty dang good job. And now that I know that this add-on exists, I only just started using it probably for this, I don't know, like a couple of months, and it's already like I don't know how I got by without it. So make sure you get that add-on because it is a lifesaver. So now that we've done this, our job is complete. It's UV unwrapped adequately enough that we can at least start to see how something would look with the texture, and we can come back and fix this if needs be. But now
I want to do it for this too. Now. Yeah, now we can be obsessive compulsive together. Good stuff.
I'm going to go back to the layout section over here, and now we can apply a. So now that we've done this, our job is
You're just going to leave that there, okay.
Enough that we can at least start to see how something would look with the texture.
You'd think you'd move them around.
If needs be. But now that that is done, I'm going to go back to the layout section over here, and now we can apply a new material to just the inside of our glass here, which I believe is another first for our for this series, unless I'm mistaken, we haven't talked about how to use multiple materials on one object, right? So our cup, we've got material to it, it's called glass at the top there. But we want to keep glass. We want to keep the glass material on some parts of the glass, but the inside, specifically this like top part of the inside of our cup, we want to have a separate material to it that looks like condensation. So the way you add another material to the mesh when you've already got another material already on it is you click this little plus button, right, which is adding a new material slot. And with this new material, you could select an existing one from anything in your scene. Oh look, I've already got one there because I'm re-recording this a little bit. But anyways, you could add a new material or whatever. Now in our case, I want to reuse this glass material.
I know what that's like.
Right here, so I'm going to select, which is adding a new material slot, and with this new material, you could select an existing one from anything in your scene. Oh look, I've already got one there because I'm re-recording this a little bit. But anyways, you could add a new material or whatever. Now in our case, I want to reuse this glass material right here, so I'm going to select glass from the list here, and I'm going to click this little button next to it to make it a single user, and I will call.
Okay, so let's start following along. So we want that. Let's go back into layout mode. I think he's in layout mode. Let's get back into that. Yeah, because that's useless. I'm going to get rid of X-ray mode. The shortcut for X-ray mode is Z, not X. Alright, glass, we want to add new. Oops, no, I'll delete that. I don't even want to know what that stuff is. Those must be sprinkles. Just delete that. Glass. 3 users, and then okay, good.
All this condensation. Aha. Okay, now if we go into render view mode, you would see that nothing has changed, and nothing should change because we haven't assigned parts of the mesh to it. And also, this is exactly what we showed before. But let's just add.
All right. Well, let's bite the bullet and go back into cycles, and we'll even turn the T back on. Oh. Interesting effect without the subsurf. Let's turn the subsurf back on as well.
So that we can differentiate between the two. Let's make this condensation material a red material so that we can visibly see it, okay? So right now nothing has changed because our
Okay. Material condensation is going to be red. Good to know.
material is still using just the top slot for our whole object here. So the way you make it use the second slot is by going into edit mode and then selecting parts of your mesh. Let's go solid view here and then X-ray mode so that I can see it. You select parts of your mesh that you want to have the separate material to. So as I mentioned, we want parts of the inside, basically just above the liquid line here, on just the inside of the glass. So if we select our cup here.
Okay, so this part where I decided, hey, let's make the liquid inside the cup not aligned to one of these things could screw us here. Still, we can always stick in a ring cut or something to fix that. All right.
You can see that, oh, miraculously, look at that. Our mesh just happens to line up so perfectly with where the liquid ends. Almost like that was done deliberately.
Oh, I'm so mad. Man.
So I'm selecting that ring now. We're holding down Alt and left clicking. Right.
I'll just fix it now because otherwise I'm going to be really, really annoyed. Look at that. That's my beautiful. Alright, how do I do this? I want to slide a vertex. This is going to slightly ruin the curvature from the subsurf as well. So I'm going to try the search to begin with. I know this is a thing because I used it before. Slide, edge slide. Yeah, let's slide him on up there. Interesting. Is that close enough to where we want it? All right, we can move that later because now we know how to do it. And select nothing. And okay, now face select mode and ring select. What? That one, please. Oh, I must have selected an outside face because did it really do what I think it did? Can I want to see this. Okay, it goes all the way around. That's really cool. Anyway, I'll turn off my subsurf so I can actually see what I'm doing. That one and sorry, that one and that one and that one.
Right, so you can do that along here, and then if you hold down Shift while you do it, you can select all those faces there. Okay, so I've got all the parts that I want to apply to this new material here called condensation. So the way you do it is by hitting that assign button there. Okay, now you only see this, by the way, in edit mode. If you're in object mode, you don't see any assign button because you have to be in edit mode in order to assign something to it. Okay, so now that we've done that, if we go back to the render view mode, haha, look at this, it is working as expected.
All right, we'll give that a go. Material, click assign, and then we go back to render view. Yeah, we got our redness. We'll turn back on subsurf and see if that makes a difference. I might go back in and assign the other one as well. See, there's something has gone slightly wrong here. I cut the right thing, didn't I? Give me Eevee. At least I can see that. Good grief. How ugly is you? How ugly are you? You are very ugly. Alright. Give me faces. Alright. Let's assign these ones as well. Context that thing assign. That's better. Now we're coming all the way up to the edge. Look at that lovely, lovely texture. Now we come down here and be like X-ray, edge select. It's impossible with that. Subsurf, you're in the way. Now what was it? Slide, edge slide. So we just slide it down to the surface of the liquid. That should be about right. And we'll turn on, let's see, what do we need to turn back on? We need to turn, subdivision is, no, it's already on. And we'll turn on cycles. All right, so we've assigned the thing.
Red, and the rest of it is coming up as clear, so it's working as we had hoped. So the base color, just set that all the way back to saturation, fully white. Okay, so it's now blending in exactly with the glass. What we want to do now is give it that condensation look. So condensation on glass, it's like, yeah, like where there's differing of temperatures and it's making little bubbles form on the glass there. So as it just so happens to be, we have, I have a website which I created 3 years ago, full of textures which I've been promoting all throughout this series. You've seen at the start, I go, brought to you by Polygon, and I hand myself a wad of cash, as someone said. But basically, it's a bunch of different textures, and we're going to be using one of them. And it is this one right here. So this is a special texture that we made just for something like this, like condensation. This is what we're going to use. So I put a link to this in the description. If you're watching this at the time we release it, you don't even have to sign up for a Polygon account. You can just download it because I haven't actually set this material as free. But if you're watching that after this material should be free. So you just have to sign up for a free account on Polygon, and then you can download this for free. Now the only map that you actually need is the normals map. Normals 16-bit. Okay, so once you've got that, you can also change the resolution if you want to go like super high res. You can, but honestly, 1K is going to be just fine. The high res
so memory. How do I stop rendering? All right, it's done. We just won't touch it. All right. Just go and download this texture.
Is going to be used in a when you do a render. So the higher res texture, like I know a lot of beginners are like, oh, always get the highest res. Yeah, you can, but you're also going to pay for it with increased memory usage. So I try to use as lower size as I can get away with. So 1K is probably, it's going to be just fine. So 1K, normal 16-bit. If you're wondering, by the way, what's the difference between normals and normal 16-bit? 16-bit is like, it's getting a little advanced, but it's like, you'll get like almost what looks like JPEG compression or like stepping issues if you're using something that is an 8-bit version, like a JPEG, for a normal map.
Right, so
if that makes no sense to you, I don't blame you. But anyways,
here's
you'll get a zip file, you can unzip that zip file, and then you can continue with the rest of this. So With our
Here's
condensation,
the thing after
which is enabling us to see, the same details over here, but it's now putting it in node form, right? Which is helpful. So to add in the texture that we just downloaded, we're going to hit Shift A, then go Texture, Image, Texture. And then
I'm just going to pause in while I find somewhere to save this sucker. Projects, Blender. Oh. Let's just do this very briefly. Direct download. Okay, that's fine, because I went and saved it as a file with no extension or anything like that, and it's a TIFF file, and I didn't actually download it. I right-clicked it, hit download, and now we have that.
hit Open.
Okay.
Wherever it is, to the shading panel, which is enabling us to see, the same details over here, but it's now putting it in node form. If that makes no sense to you, I don't blame you. But anyways, download that. You'll get a zip file. You're going to unzip that zip file, and then you can continue with the rest of this. So, with our condensation material that's selected, we're going to go to the shading panel, which is enabling us to see, the same details over here, but it's now putting it in node form, right? Which is helpful. So, to add in the texture that we just downloaded, we're going to hit Shift A, then go Texture, Image, Texture, and then hit Open.
All right. Now, before we go too nuts, okay, yeah, we are in condensation. So,
Locate. So to add in the texture that we just downloaded, we're going to hit Shift A, then go Texture, Image, Texture.
all right. Shift A, Texture, Image, Texture. All right, and then we need to open this sucker.
And then hit Open. Locate wherever it is that you have.
All right, excuse me while I open the thing. If you're wondering why I'm doing it like this, it's because I don't want folder names or anything leaking onto the internet. I mean, like, for example, this is fine. So if I double click on that, we get it. If I get D/project/top secret coming up, I'll be very sad. I can see why people use like dedicated streaming machines. It saves that hassle.
I've downloaded the texture too. So here's water droplets, and in there you'll see like a folder called regular, then the size 1K. So this is the material right here, normal 16. Doesn't matter what size, whatever you've got, just click that, and then we're going to hit Open Image. Okay. So this, if we were to look at what this looks like, which we can do with the Node Wrangler add-on, the viewer thing, this is what it looks like, right? So it's this bluish.
Node Wrangler would be handy, but we can just also drag it.
Weirdish. It's a purple-looking texture, right? That's a normal map. A normal map always looks like this. It makes no sense to you as a human being, but to the computer goes, I know what to do with this. Pretend that it's geometry and make it look, like reflections and shadows and things. So it's a special type of material that basically doesn't cost anything when you render, but it adds
that plane is surprisingly expensive.
Detail in for free, and it's amazing, especially for something like this where you've got like little bubbles on the inside of glass. You don't have to pay for that by modeling and sculpting all that stuff in. This is the perfect job for a normal map. Okay. Now the way that you use a normal map on our shader here is we want to take the normal map, and we want to plug this into the normal input right here. If we were to just do that, plug it in, normal map like that, this would happen. Wrong. Never do it like that.
I'm curious now.
Well, that's the first bit. But between here and here, you have to add in a Shift A, Vector, Normal Map. And this will convert the color into a normal map that the software can actually read. And you can see that it's now coming out almost correct. But before you proceed.
All right, Shift A, was it Vector, Normal Map? Just slide him in there. It's, oh yeah, you can see some bubbles up there.
You also have to set the color space for your normal map from sRGB to non-color. And you do that because it is a normal map. And because there was a bug in Blender 2.81, which I've yet to report, but I should, when we did that, nothing actually changed. It didn't refresh, it didn't change anything. So I'm just going to refresh that by unplugging it and plugging it back in. And now it is correct. So this is now using the correct input. Sorry, the correct values. And we now have condensation on the inside of our glass. But wait, it looks like somebody has instead smeared Vaseline or lube or whatever it is, some sort of jelly substance. The droplets are way too big. Okay, so this goes back to our UV unwrapping. Okay, so if we go to the UV image editor, this is our mug, and this is the UV squares over the top of the image. Okay, now if we go into look dev mode, this little button at the top there,
Oh, that is so much faster if we're on the GPU. Let's do everything in look dev.
This is what it looks like, okay? Which, it's not looking, it's using the Eevee renderer to preview the textures over it. It's not going to look exactly like the render, but it's close enough. You can see what it's doing to it, okay? So if I was to increase the scale of this grid here by hitting S, and then increasing that, you can see that these bubbles now become smaller, right? Because the grid is now occupying more space over the texture. Okay, now there's really only one part of this material that's actually being used, like it's just the top part of this ring here. We've got the whole mug here, but it doesn't matter, we're just gonna scale it all up. All this other stuff, the handle, the little circles down there that aren't being used, all the rest of the mug's not being used. The texture is like, it's still showing it over in the UV image editor, but it's not being used anywhere because the material stack is using the glass, which has no texture on it.
Alright, that's handy to know. UV editing, select all. So we can actually figure out what our faces are, I suspect, by doing this. Yeah, so they're, those ones sort of there-ish. Alright, cool. I'm going to stop playing. Animation would be fun. Alright.
Everywhere else. So that's just sort of how this.
What do we need? We need look dev so I can actually do something useful here. Alright, we'll carry on.
UV unwrapping thing works. Yeah, you get the hang of it. You get the hang of it. And select L to select that entire island there, and then you just want to scale this up until like the size looks okay. Now, one thing you'll note if you get right in here, you'll notice that the aspect ratio is a little bit off. Okay. Because these things look like they're kind of being stretched that way. And when you have that problem, it just means that you have to stretch your UV squares in a different axis. So for one, I'm just going to rotate this like this. Actually, going to flip it. I'll make the part with the mug, because I know that this is the part with the handle. Because I can see there's that little line that's out of place. So I know that's the handle. This is the part that'll be like, so now it's actually like accurate to the rotation of it. It doesn't really matter, but it just helps me think about it. So this is the part of the mug, okay? Now that I've got this, if I scale, if I hit S and then X, I'm going to be scaling along the X axis. And when I do that, you can see these droplets now
I don't think I have quite his problem. I think mine is actually relatively it's normal, to coin a phrase. Like I can sort of try and get them approximately round. That'll do.
become the shape that they should be, which is mostly circular, like not being stretched in any particular direction. You won't get it. I mean, you might not ever get it perfectly lined up, but it doesn't matter. It just has to look close enough, right? Close enough to the image over there. And that's pretty good. Okay, so almost at the end. Check it out. Ha 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 ha. There we go. So if you want bigger or smaller bubbles, then, you know, tweak it. You want really small bubbles, go like that. And if you want bigger bubbles, go like that. And honestly, it could really go either way. Condensation just kind of does its own thing. Sometimes you get little tiny little bubbles on like a Coke can, and sometimes you get the big bubbles that are like rippling out of it. So it's really, you know, however you want it to look. One thing I do want to change though is in the shading tab. Right, this normal map here is converting our map into a bumpy thing that the shader can use, but it's also giving strength to it. And out of the gate, it's set to 1, which is fine, it works for most droplet things. But you can, like these, basically it's like making the bulbous shape of it. So setting it to 1 is like, these droplets are pretending to be huge, right? So, and I say pretending because there's no geometry data there, it's fakery, so that the shader treats it like there is geometry. Anyway, if I turn this down though, you can see that I get a completely different effect. I get something that looks like, yeah, like what you actually see on glass, right? Not something that's like sticking out, like looking really weird and whatever. Point 2, I find just looks a little bit nicer for
Okay,
this.
well, let's do that.
Here we go, guys. We did it. The final part. We did it. Well done, guys. Thank you for watching this level. As something to finish on that is a little fun. I mean, it's not really that fun. It's not even really that interesting. But I figure why not? Because I know in the earliest donut series, at the end of each video, I did like here's something cool just to keep you interested. Let's pretend you want to make a.
All right, now before we get into the cool part, can I have my condensation? Okay, you've got to select in this left pane apparently, or right pane apparently. Let's drop the strength down to 0.2 because he said so. Not really seeing. Oh yeah. Okay. Does that look good to everybody? I think we probably could do a different scale. Like that does actually seem a bit big. So let's scale some more. Oh man, this is impossible. Let's switch back to that and scale. Alright, let's scale down just a smidgen. I kind of wanted a big scale so it's obvious, but I think it was too big. So let's go back select this mode as
Stack
plate.
of plates, because that is a pretty common thing when you're making a kitchen. We've got one plate here. How do you make a stack? You could duplicate them, Shift D, Shift D. You could even hit Shift R after making one plate, and that will like repeat the previous action, right? But turns out there's an add-on, a modifier just for this, and it's called the array modifier. I'm only doing this is just for fun, guys. You don't have to follow this if you don't want to. So with the array, this is basically taking an axis, and it's creating more and more versions of it along that axis. So the axis is currently set to X. If I set that to 0, and instead I make this one down here, which is the Z, the vertical axis. If I make that 1, you can see we now have a stack of plates, and I can change how close they are together by dialing that in, and we now have a stack of plates intersecting with our cup, and it looks like some weird art that you would see at a modern gallery. I went to one in Tokyo just the other week, and yeah, this feels right at home. This would fit into their gallery. But anyways, guys, if you want some homework, if you want a challenge, because some people have said like, oh, this is too easy, give me something hard. That's what she said. No. Then you should model a spoon or a fork or something like that, and we're going to put it on this saucer here, or you can add it to the donut when we get to the donut. In level 3, we're going to be combining, and that's going to be the final level, level 3. The final, and that'll be the donut with the coffee against a brick purple wall. We'll do a little bit of animation, we'll do a final render, a little bit of compositing, and create that final image there. So if you're ready for that, go ahead and click here. But if you are watching this live as I upload, then there will be probably a week or two before the next level starts. But thank you for waiting, and share this with a friend if you found it useful. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next video.
All right, so
Welcome back.
Cool. I really don't like his beard. It does not suit him. Okay, and that's speaking of someone with nice stubble going on. All right, we're at 16 samples. We can't actually see the condensation because ridiculous. Is that just the way we've lit it, or what? I wanted to do the silly thing, so let's do the silly thing. On the saucer, let's add an array modifier, and relative offset is going to be 0. Y-axis is going to be 1. No, sorry. Z is up in Blender, and we're going to have that many. And let's run a proper render. Oh, we're rendering twice at the same time. Let's turn that off. Let's turn this down a bit so I can get more in. The neighbors and their doof music. Great. All right, let's hit F12 and see what comes out the other side. But yeah, so this is going to be it for this session. We'll start part 4. Level 4. Part 1, level 4. Yeah, okay. We'll start that next time. So we'll just wait for this to finish rendering. But I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. It looks like coffee. It's so few samples. You can sort of see the condensation, but not really. But that's fine. I'm okay with that for now. I mean, as you said, it's just a little thing, and we must remember that this is just a tutorial. We're learning how to do it, and we learned how to do some interesting things with textures, so that's useful. Very modern art, yes. I mean, yeah, you can see how long this plane takes to render. Like, it's fast, but it's still taking, half a second per tile, if not longer. And oh god, that's 128 samples. So if I were going to be doing a lot of this stuff, which probably I am not, I need a fatter computer. Anyway, that's rendered out now nicely. So I'm going to save this off. I'm going to save off the other thing and call it a night. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Toodaloo.